Okay guys, Miss D here, and today we're taking a quiz in a way that we've never taken a quiz. We're doing a video quiz. So if you follow this video all the way through and get everything written down in your paper, you should have 100%. And the reason I decided to do it this way is because these are all things that should be reviewed, but I know that some of you may not remember them. So let's start with something simple. The first shape that we see is a rectangle. I see that it has what we would have called in elementary school, a length of 12.5 centimeters and a width of 5. In middle school, though, instead of using the words length times width, we're going to use the formula base times height. And here's why. We're going to call it height because we're going to add some shapes that do not have straight lines. And we don't want to use a line that is crooked. So when it says base times height, we're just going to take 12.5 times 5 centimeters, punch it in our calculator, and get 62.5 centimeters. So in this box, area is 62.5 centimeters squared. You must put the little 2 above the centimeters or it's not correct. So the next shape is also a rectangle. It has straight lines, so we don't really have to worry about it. And we're going to use the same formula. Now remember, at any point, you can pause the video to make sure that you're getting all this. You must write all 3 A's. Area is base times height. Area is 9.2 times 5.1. Area is 46.92 centimeters squared. Please double check me in my calculator, in your calculator, to make sure that I'm correct. And then you put your final answer here if I'm correct. If you see that I'm not correct, go ahead and write me a little note because you never know if I have a typo. Now here's where it gets interesting. This shape right here has a lot of numbers. And it's called a trapezoid, okay? So remember I told you about the lines that are slanted? Do you see that 11 centimeters, which is slanted? We do not want to use any line that is crooked. So that means we're going to use the 10.2, the 14.8, and the 9 because the trapezoid has a bigger formula. In fact, it has 2 formulas, and you can pick the one that you like. It could either be 1/2 times, parentheses, base 1 plus base 2. That's the top and bottom of the shape because you see, they're not the same length. Look up here, top and bottom are the same. Down here, they're not. So that's why we have to add the top and the bottom and then times it by the height. Now my favorite formula, I think it's easier, is just to write area equals base 1 plus base 2 times height and then just divide it by 2 instead of using the fraction half. So here's what it would look like, guys. I know it looks like a lot, but you're just filling in the numbers. Base 1, see, I labeled it for you here, is the top. Base 2 is the bottom. The height is the straight number, and the 11 you don't need at all. So 10.2 plus 14.8, you have to add those first. This is PEMDAS. You have to do the parentheses first. I got 25. Then, oh my gosh, I just see a mistake. Guys, look, it's supposed to be times 9. Look what your teacher wrote. I wrote times 8. Guys, right here, you're going to have to correct this. It should say 25 times 9 divided by 2. And that means my answer is going to be wrong. So 25 times 9, instead of 200, guys, it should say 225. And then 225 divided by 2, instead of 100, it should say 112.5. Look, your teacher found a mistake. So don't freak out if you're making a mistake. Now, here's another trapezoid, guys. Notice they did not give us the slanted lines. So we just need base 1, base 2, and a straight line for the height. So look here. Area is base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. So it's going to be 28 plus 21. I'm going to add that and get 49. Do you see that? Then I'm going to times it by 8 and get 392. Then I'm going to divide it by 2. Remember that fraction bar is divide. I get 196 centimeters squared. Area is 196 centimeters squared. Almost done, guys. Now, here's what I told you. It looks sort of like a rectangle, but it's slanted. Do you see how it's pushed over? That's called a parallelogram when it's slanted like that. You might also call it a diamond, a rhombus. And look at this. They're trying to trick you to use a height that is crooked, that is slanted. We don't measure height that way. So we're going to use the height as 4.8. We are not going to use 5.4, and we're going to use the base of 3.5. So it's still the same formula as a rectangle, base times height, but you have to know not to use the crooked height. You have to know to use the straight height. And when you multiply them, you get 16.8 centimeters squared. Please make sure you have that. Now, one more formula to go, triangles, which you should have done also in 6th grade. Look, A triangle has a slanted height. You don't use it. So you're going to use the 21 and 11, and it takes the formula of a rectangle, and it's base times height, but you divide it by 2 because a triangle is half of a rectangle. So here I have to do 21 times 11, which is 231, then divided by 2, which is 115.5. My area is 115.5 centimeters squared. What do we got? 2 more to go? I'm giving you another triangle, guys. Now look at this one. They did not give us the measure of the slanted height. That's good because we don't want to use it. We're going to use the straight up and down. See, it's a right angle, straight up and down. So it's base times height divided by 2. So it's 7.2 times 9.8, which is 70.56. Double check me. You already saw one mistake. Divided by 2, I got 35.28 centimeters squared. My last shape, back to that parallelogram. It looks like a rectangle that's been pushed sideways. And so that 7 is a trick. We don't need that number, okay? So we're going to use the 18.3 times 6.2, and when we multiply that, base times height, we get 113.46 centimeters squared. Now guys, when you finish this part, double check that you have everything, turn it in the bin for a grade, and then you're going to go to the partner practice. Actually, you know what? Don't turn this in. I would use this to help you on the partner practice because there's not a video for that and it is part of your grade. It's ones for you to try by yourself. So basically just match the shape to one of these that we have here and go ahead and use those formulas.